It's really hard to believe that as a Nintendo fan or someone who used to be one, that every time Nintendo comes out with something, or every time I hear news on them or something that they're doing, I just feel, I don't know, tired. Or even worse than that, I just feel disgusted. It honestly makes me wonder, like, with this much vitriol that I have for the company or what it's become, whether or not I actually ever was a fan. I had to really look back because I was straight up gaslighting myself into thinking that I never was one. The truth is, I was. I loved everything about Nintendo, even the games I wasn't really interested in. I always bragged to people or celebrated with them about Nintendo's pride in their product, their hardware, and in the community. They were humble, they were the underdog, and now that doesn't seem to be the case at all. The only thing I think about Nintendo that's synonymous with them is greed. And funny enough, even more so than Disney. Disney's just straight up destructive.
What did you just say?
Nintendo is just plain greedy, predatory, and super petty. And it all comes off in this weird amalgamation of desperation or consumer abuse. There's an actual website called suedbynintendo.com. From 1989, Nintendo sued Blockbuster for copying instruction books. Nintendo wanted video game rentals to stop renting their games, and since Blockbuster used to make copies of the instruction booklets for each game, Nintendo sued them for copyright violations. Then it just goes up. They say Game Genie. What the frick is a Game Genie? It was a tool made to modify the game. Oh, okay. 2001 console classics. A rental. What? The fan movie was shut down. Uh-oh. A fan-made Pokemon MMO was shut down, 2010, to take down the website and surrender the domain name to 2010, MLG Orlando 2010 had a Super Smash Bros. Tournament. Wow. And they weren't allowed to stream the tournament online because Nintendo didn't give them the necessary live streaming right. The fuck? Nintendo claimed ad revenue on videos from users on YouTube. Yeah. That didn't go over very well. Fans of Super Smash Brothers, I think it's Melee, raised thousands of dollars in charity to participate in EVO, and Nintendo pushed to cancel the stream and then the event for charity. You cannot make this up. Full screen Mario Brothers taken down. A fan-made Brothers of the NES game was made to run on browsers with widescreen support. They forced the creator to remove the working game. A book about Earthbound's development. Wow. So, this is... Nintendo says no to gay game characters. Wow. Nintendo in January 2015 created the Nintendo Creators Program to allow YouTube users to create content from their games, but only the ones whitelisted from the company, and giving Nintendo a cut of the ad revenue for each video. Wow. Videos about speedruns and ROM hacks are removed. Really? Speedrun? What is wrong with these freaking... I want y'all to look at this. You can look into this further too, but dude, holy shit. This company is a piece of putrid, satanic shit. Like, I understand some of the copyright legalities and whatnot, but seriously? I didn't even know half of the stuff existed. I knew some of it. Jesus Christ, it keeps going. You are so popular that people are making fan-made stuff of you and you are fighting the fucking customers. Good Lord, it keeps going. It keeps going. What in the world? It's like that story that I read in high school. So I think it was by Shakespeare or Hamlet. I don't remember. But it was a story about this prophecy. And the king heard, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember, it was a long time ago, but the king heard that his son was going to kill him and sleep with the king's wife, his mother. Oedipus? I don't know. I don't remember, but I think it was Oedipus. And I made a presentation on it. And the very idea, the king sent away his son or something, he did something. He went over, because he was so paranoid. He was so paranoid that he went above and beyond to avoid that happening, maliciously so, that he ended up creating the very events to lead to it happening, which is fucked. And I feel like that's what's happening with Nintendo. It's still going? Oh my god. Wow. Steam Deck videos. What? Emulating games? Okay, because they were emulating the games, taking down my Nintendo. Fuck you, Nintendo. You should have got more than 500 copyright. I'm sorry, like, I'm doing this video and I just found this. That's why I'm, like, flabbergasted, because I was literally in the middle of talking about this and I found this site and I'm like, what is this? And this is my first time seeing this. Holy shit. Wow. Now we're approaching an attempted loss and trademark battle against a Costa Rican supermarket named Super Mario for trademark infringement. Nintendo has lost the trademark battle and the supermarket gets the key. How did they even end up here in Costa Rica? Like, what are you doing over there? Oh my God. Sorry to tell you, have y'all been, like, following the Chinese and what they're doing? I mean, you're coming after everybody else except them. I just find that very odd. But anyway, that's crazy. That is crazy. And then we have the pocket pair thing. Oh, actually, the supermarket thing was very recent. What in the world is wrong with this stupid bitch-ass company? Wow. My head is hurting. Wow. Whew, I am so sorry. I just don't have any respect for them as a company anymore. Because what used to be people supporting Nintendo and sticking with it throughout the years because, you know, their childhood is now Nintendo farming the support of these people by repackaging all this mediocrity, because that's basically what it is, and then selling it at a premium that they honestly don't deserve, in my opinion. Nintendo's track record over the past decade shows a very clear pattern. They push underpowered hardware, slap a gimmick on it, like motion controls, cardboard, or a portable screen, and still charge full price, or even beyond what the regular price should be. The OLED Switch was the biggest slap in the face, and as far as I know, when it came out, there were 0 performance upgrades over the 2017 launch model, just a nicer screen. That's basically what you were getting. I could be wrong, but as far as I know, that was it. That was it. No upgraded CPU, nothing else. No improvements to frame rate stability. It's just, look at this technology that we're giving you that we're charging $350 for, which is way more than the base model just for the freaking screen, because we know you simps are gonna buy it. Look how dead inside this woman looks in the trailer. She's like, okay. Yeah, I paid. What am I doing this for? And the thing is, people don't even realize what the hell's happening. They're just being slow-boiled and gaslighting themselves into thinking that they like it, while Nintendo milks this existing fan base for more cash before even attempting to release the real successor. They could have made the switch to the OLED version, but nope. Also, the one thing that people always argue about with Nintendo is that in 2025, when handheld gaming has reached this new level of performance with devices like Rogue Ally X and the Lenovo Legion Go, people were still speculating that when the Switch dropped, it was going to lag years behind the raw specs of those. They just dropped a Pokemon Legends Z to A trailer for the pre-order, and dude, everyone is dogging on this. Everyone is dogging on this because, first of all, the graphics, it doesn't look any better than Scarlet. People are saying all that money and still shitty graphics. Hope the ROM gets leaked so I can play this on my laptop. Looks terrible. Nintendo should be ashamed of this. Someone is saying people in the comments really need to calm their asses down. We're literally getting a Pokemon present for the 22nd for more information and reveals, and y'all complain there wasn't any more details in this one short trailer. For one, this is and pre-order trailers, of course there won't be anything new. And second, like I said, there's already a Pokemon present planned for 22nd. Y'all act like, actually you're acting like the babies with a fucking dick in your mouth. I mean, the trailer does look horrible. People are allowed to point that out. And for what they're charging people and for where they are currently in their tech specs and all that, you shouldn't be putting out a game trailer that looks like ass. The trailer is supposed to be showing you what you're going to be getting, or a sneak peek in what you're going to be getting, and you want people to pre-order the game based off this shitty-ass trailer that they drop with these shitty-ass graphics? Jesus Christ. This is why Nintendo does it. I'm going to get into this a little bit later, but people like this are exactly the reason why Nintendo does shit like this. Thank you, Nintendo Daddy! Oh my god, they said something bad about... What the fuck, guys? Come on, seriously. And everybody else are acting like babies? No, the rest of us are just adults that know what we want to do with our money and know what we should be getting for the prices that we're fucking paying for something. Especially if you want us to pre-order something. What is actually wrong with you people? Oh my god. Was I like this when I was little? Jesus Christ. Now, I actually opted to get a Steam Deck rather than a Switch 2. I already have the base model Switch. And honestly, I picked that thing up once or twice in haven't played it because the games and the way things ran on there I'm sorry, it just didn't feel like Nintendo to me. Shoot me. I think the Pokemon game is what killed it for me, and the only thing I would play is Breath of the Wild. Now, I get, I'll get into why I chose a Steam Deck and why I will be purchasing the next Steam Deck that comes out, most likely rather than ever picking up a Nintendo console, probably for the rest of my life, or at least in the near future, unless they change their practices. But yeah, you've got these modern PC-based handhelds running Windows or SteamOS with scalable performance and actual upgradable software ecosystems. And the rumors are already suggesting that Switch 2 is about matching in power with the PS4 in the year 2025, and that's kind of strange for a lot of people. Now, I know some people might forgive this because they'll say, well, the Switch is a handheld. No, it isn't, though. It's actually a handheld console hybrid. A video game console is an electronic device used to play video games. These devices typically connect to a television or a monitor and are controlled by game controllers. Now we have them expand down there. It says that consoles can be home consoles, which are stationary and connect to a display, or handheld consoles, which are portable and have their own built-in screen. A video game handheld is a portable, self-contained video game console that is small enough to be held in one's hands. It includes built-in screens, controls, and speakers, allowing for gaming on the go. Nintendo Switch can do this, but it's also designed to be docked in and easily hooked up to your TV system to be played on there too. Most other dedicated handheld consoles don't have that ability right out the box, so they're strictly handheld. And the stationary ones, like the Xboxes and PlayStation 5s, don't have any handheld capabilities, so they're strictly just stationary consoles. The Nintendo Switch can do both, so it's kind of a hybrid, which honestly, kudos to Nintendo, because one of the things I used to like about them, and still will give them credit where it's due, is that they will push the envelope when it comes to creativity and their hardware gimmick things, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't, but at least they're trying to do things differently than other consoles, and I think that's where their strength lies in that regard. But if they're falling behind, you can't just depend on that anymore. People are starting to notice. And on top of that, you're beginning to see your competition rising all around you. People are capitalizing on this. And I feel like Steam is going to become the new underdog and a worthy contender in the near future, especially given that they've now made their OS open source, which is going to offer way more flexibility in terms of handheld gaming. So you see people making some arguments here. Get an idea what people are saying and the pros and cons of each. But anyway, like I was saying with the open source thing, it means that handheld devices that are going to come out can adapt this and become worthy competition, where they don't have to just use Windows. Give it a few years, and many of the issues that the first-gen handheld devices are having are going to be smoothed out, along with more of them coming in their way. Nintendo is still trying to strangle people financially. See, one person says here, I'm sorry, I'm just reading some of the comments. Nintendo can be against whatever they want. Emulation is not illegal, which is why it's not going anywhere. Keep in mind, if you buy a Switch, you're spending money on an underpowered console with expensive games. First parties never go on sale, and third party sales are worse than Steam. Take this from someone who owns both. Pokemon Scarlet is a fine example. Constant stuttering on the Switch, oh my god, yes. While on the Steam Deck, I get stable 30 FPS with higher resolution and mods. So think to yourself if it's really worth it getting a Switch with a more limited catalog, worse performance, and no mods. Keeping in mind you can emulate way more than Nintendo Switch on Steam Deck, you can pretty much play all the classics on it, that is true. This person says, I'm worried about getting caught. You won't get caught. Got caught for what? It's not illegal. Just don't advertise, like, do it on a video or something and showcase it. You'll be fine. Someone says you don't have to pirate games just because of emulation. If you have a Switch, you'd also need to buy the games for it. Same with the Steam Deck. You can just buy the games and emulate them, and it won't be illegal. There's honestly nothing to get caught. Nintendo cannot target individuals and has no way of tracking you on a Steam Deck. On Nintendo Switch, the maximum would happen is they get banned from online play, which is true, or they brick your device. The other thing with Nintendo is that they're intentionally underperforming in hardware so they can maximize their profit margins, because their games don't need bleeding edge specs to sell millions. They know this. People will just buy them regardless, and that's part of the problem, because people, they're just deep-throating Nintendo, being like, oh, you guys are being so mean to them, and they'll just keep buying them. And then they'll be like, you know what? I know that you suckers will buy the games. I know that you'll buy the hardware, and 2 years later, we're going to come out with the screen, the OLED screen version, and we know you'll pay for it. So that's going to become their downfall, their pride. You can only do this so much until it catches up to you.
Word.
So, as I've said, Valve made SteamOS open source, and what this does is it empowers the users, the buyers, whatever, the modders, and even competitors to build on that. And this is what you'd call a consumer-first move. It basically gives the power back to the community or the consumers, something that Nintendo has long since kicked to the curb for some reason, like they have a vendetta against people. You want to bet you're going to hear some people jumping to their defense saying, but they still care about the community. No they don't, you freaking battered wives. As an example, keeping on the subject, the Steam Deck doesn't lock you into anything. You can run Windows, install Epic, Xbox Cloud Gaming, emulators, mods, the whole thing. It's yours. You can break it, customize it, dual boot it, whatever you want. And I know because my husband has been spending the last few days doing just that. You can play anything on that thing, and I mean anything, and holy shit, it runs so freaking well. Some of the emulators need a little tweaking, but for the most part, are you kidding me? I have the whole arcade library, things from all the PlayStations, the Xboxes, some consoles I've never even heard of, like they have the Dreamcast and the, whatever the frick it's, there's a name for something, there's stuff on there. Like, I don't even know what half those things are, but yeah, there's games for that too. And as a tech guy, my husband absolutely loves the Steam Deck and has a freaking OLED screen. And it is beautiful. And this is like, Steam is still early in on the game with their handheld stuff. Now, granted, we did pay a lot more for it, but considering what you get with the storage and everything, where you can run any emulator, and on top of that, you can run games on Steam, and any future games that are coming out, and you can run a bunch of plugins and mod it so that you can run it the way you want to, or play it the way you want, record how you want. And that was the main thing that I was worried about, and I know it's going to become a freaking Steam Deck video. I don't want it to become that. That's not what I'm talking about, but just, I want you to understand, from the mind of someone who used to be a Nintendo fan, I can't even really say that I am anymore. That's why I made the switch too. I'm kidding. Wow, I said I wasn't going to say that. It was just as cringe in my head when I saw those Redditors saying it. I shouldn't have said it. I don't know why I did, but, you know, I'm naturally cringe. You know how I do. But anyway, the Steam Deck, once again, gives you freedom, which feels very synonymous with how the old style of gaming was. And I say that, but this was only like freaking 10 years ago, right? Nintendo, on the other hand, though, sells you a closed ecosystem, actively fights all the emulators. You saw that site that I showed you earlier on, where they just go down snapping, Thanos snapping everybody's fan projects, sues people left and right for every little thing, even the people who try to preserve their games, that bullies indie developers like Pocket Pair with Pal World, and it just feels very strictly anti-consumer, and that's not how they started out. It didn't feel like that at first. And Valve basically is saying, hey, build what you want, dude. Build what you want. Have some control again. Nintendo's like, shut up and pay for our old ROMs at full frickin' price. Nintendo's like, we're gonna keep feeding you slop or give you the bare minimum, and you're gonna take this man meat, choke on it, and be happy and thank us. Thank us for making you asphyxiate and lodging our man meat down your freaking throat hole and almost sending you to the freaking grave. Say thank you. Thank you, Nintendo. You're welcome. Like, that's how it kind of feels. And in any other situation, I would be completely down with that, but not when it comes to my gaming and my hardware, not when it comes to my money, and I think a lot of people feel the same. Nintendo has repeatedly throughout the years done everything to piss people off, like nuking its own digital stores, only to then offer no alternative for legal access to those games, at least as of this video. Notice I said legal. And they sell you Super Mario 64 or whatever 3 times on 3 different consoles, then yank it from the store, and they create this artificial scarcity. And they have a very long history of litigating fan creators for ROM hacks, mods, and the unofficial tournaments, like what we saw in that site that I showed you. I didn't even know about that before, and I looked into it like, really? And I know people are going to make the argument that, oh, they're just protecting their IP, but there is a line to be drawn there. If people are making fan-made games, as long as they're not making any money off of it, they're not doing commercially, and people are still buying Nintendo games, all that's doing is keeping Nintendo in the limelight and keeping them relevant. If I made a video game right now and charged people money for it and people decide to make fan games or modded versions of it, I honestly would be thrilled, because you know what it would do? First of all, this is what I would do personally. The community is keeping my game and my presence alive in the industry, keeping people talking about it, keeping people playing it, keeping my company's name in their mouth.
Out your fucking...
Second of all, that's free brainstorming for me. Watching what people come up with and seeing how the community reacts to these fan-made projects, that would make me think, well, it seems as though people really like this type of game. If my game is in a free roam style and I see there's a big market for that, then I'll offer free roam too, or free roam mode too. And that's if it's in the fan-made game. If I see that that's what they're responding to. And of course, on principle, I've got to make it better than the fans, but keep in mind that it's something that they want. I want to support the community, and in turn, I know that in doing so, they will support me. This works in physical principle too, with stores in real life. When you treat the customers right, they'll go out of their way to brag about your store or your restaurant to other people. I've done that with many stores, and I've brought so many people to a Korean store, not just to support a Korean family, but also because they were working their asses off to make sure they treated their customers well. I wanted people to have the wonderful experience that I did. People will talk really loudly about something when there's an issue with it or when it's overwhelmingly positive because either they're so happy about it they can't keep it in, or it's so negative of an experience that they're like, okay, I gotta first of all vent and also tell other people about this and also give feedback on how to make it better. Nintendo is on the negative spectrum of that. What Nintendo is essentially doing is weaponizing nostalgia while refusing to modernize or support game preservation. So in a lot of people's eyes, they're not the hero that we looked up to during childhood. They've now become this billion-dollar vampire, draining all the fun and all the goodwill out of gaming. Kind of like they're operating as some kind of freakish skinwalker and the real Nintendo is lying dead and buried out there somewhere.
You're shopping, whether it be Amazon or in the grocery store, as you're scanning everything, and just before you swipe your credit card, I want you to consider, what did they do to convince me to buy this?
Now, here's the issue, right? I've said this in countless videos before, but I know that there are people coming to this channel that don't know anything about this, or this is the first video they might be watching on the topic, or from me, and the biggest issue is not just Nintendo doing this, it's people allowing them to, right? By continuing to give them your freaking money. They slap you in the face, they kick you in the nuts, and you cry, and you bitch, and you complain. Oh my god, Nintendo's doing this, Nintendo's doing that. But the moment that they open their legs or drop their pants, you're the shit out of them. All the while Nintendo is pointing at your head, bobbing up and down, and they're watching you while you're on your crusty ass knees, laughing while their friends watch. As they're saying, see how these hoes are? You can do anything. They'll just let you do it. I can just walk up and grab them by the bussy, and I'll just keep doing it over and over again. I must got some good No, Nintendo doesn't. What they've got is money and influence, which apparently makes people stupid and forget that they have autonomy and that they need to think for themselves. And it's super embarrassing. You say that you're going to boycott Nintendo, but then as soon as it launches, you're the first one in line to buy the new product. You're funding obsolescence. Every dollar that you spend is a vote for more stagnation. And the more that we support these practices, the more they become normalized, which is why Nintendo keeps doing it and other companies keep doing it. Because Nintendo thinks they can get away with it, because you're allowing them to get away with it. You could buy a Steam Deck or other handhelds with a far better experience, or even some of their older games. Not only are these systems more powerful, some of them, but they also offer complete freedom to play games from anywhere, not just one store. And the messed up part about all of this is that Nintendo could turn on the option for higher resolution in the newer systems. They could easily release a system patch that allows you to run Switch 1 games at higher frame rates and resolutions, but they don't do it. I mean, I could be wrong, but isn't this kind of feature standard in modern emulation now? So if they're releasing a new system, you'd think they'd include something like that. Nope. Knowing them, they're just going to say, oh well, the resolution is hard set onto the disc or the game itself. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but then why would they need to come out with the new games and say, well, now you can play it in this resolution? Like, from what we know, and from my limited knowledge, patches for these games are pushed through the online store. So if they can patch a game after release, they can absolutely include resolution or performance upgrades. So why don't they just download a patch that lets you play the Switch 1 version of a game in higher resolution or frame rate on the Switch 2 instead of having to buy it outright? Like, I don't get it. Maybe I'm confused or something, because it seems like to me from what I've seen that they want you to pay $80 for a Switch 2 version of the exact same game. And if I'm wrong, forgive me, but that's my understanding of it. And the thing is, everyone, like, a lot of people are acting like this behavior is new. Like, some people are, me included. And honestly, when I was a kid, I didn't really see it for what it was because, you know, we want something, our parents buy it for us, they're ignorant, they don't know any better. This is also coming from the generation of people that, yeah, they owned houses, but they also didn't own everything. They adopted the whole white picket fence situation, but they're paying for everything. Even after supposedly buying it, they're still paying interest for it. So I don't know. But to make us happy, they're like, what? This cost this much, but my child wants it. So I'm just going to continue getting it because my child wants it because all his friends have it. But like when they released the 3DS or the DS models, like DS Lite, DSi, DS Color, whatever console they released, it was always the same damn system with very, very minor tweaks. Like, Apple should take notes from them. They probably already are. Nintendo will change the color of a console and slap a new name on it like some revolutionary upgrade. And they're like, now in smoke charcoal gray. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. And people are eating it up. They're like addicts. Nintendo fans are addicts. And I know because I used to be one. I was a full-on Nintendo junkie. Like, I guarantee there's some people that have different versions of the Switch in their house right now. As a matter of fact, my husband told me there was a friend of his who, funny enough, he is such a Nintendo junkie that his nickname is one of the Nintendo characters that eats everything. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, based on what my husband said, this dude has every iteration of every Nintendo console because, and there was even like a generation of console that he had, I think, like he collects them and he buys them the same exact thing in every different color. That's a little bit far, but whatever. Like, I understand to some extent. Like, I used to collect pens. Don't ask. And I get it. I used to be like that too. Like, I would buy a console just for a specific game. If it was Nintendo and a Pokemon game, I'm getting it. I would go back and collect all the old retro games just because. Like, and now I see it for what it is. And maybe that's because now I'm an adult and I need money. Like, I don't, it's weird. Like, when a kid, the thing is, I was still using my money. I would starve myself and like take my allowance or my lunch money or whatever, and I would just save up and buy these things. So it meant a lot. I was able to get this for myself because it was like trendy and everything. Now with the, and now I kind of get it. And like, watch. I bet you my left fingernail off of my left pinky in 2 years, the OLED version, is going to come out. And I say that because for them charging as much as they are, and it's not like they didn't have an OLED version before. Why are you releasing a second version of the fucking Switch without an OLED model? Like, or without an OLED screen? I just don't understand. You already released an OLED model. Now you do have the technology, but you're choosing not to do it because you want to milk people for their money. Like, we'll just give them the regular schmegular screen, and 2 years later, hey guys, remember this? You're gonna get an OLED version now. Now pay us like $120 or $200 extra to get this after you've already gotten the other one. Like, at this point, Nintendo's just it's basically Disney with a Pikachu sticker.
If we kept changing our minds, the programmers would scold us saying, this is the last time we're changing this.
You idiots. Keep buying. If you care about preservation and open ecosystems, the freedom to tinker, and this anti-monopolistic behavior, monopolistic, is that a word? Whatever. You know what I mean. Anti-monopolistic monopoly. I hate to tell you, but Nintendo is the one we should be looking to for that anymore, because where they used to be the underdog, they used to be the person that just felt like they were different than the rest. Now it feels like they're just as greedy as the others, if not more so. They become worse than their Nintendos. Now, having said all that, why are people still defending Nintendo? Especially the people who were like I said before, were coming out like, don't buy it, we're gonna be a boycott, and they're like, oh my god, Nintendo, I just, why are they still bending over backwards despite being backhanded left and right no matter what, even when there's barely any of their face left? Well, there's a few reasons. Firstly, Nintendo's first-party games, yes, they're genuinely fun, and they're often critically acclaimed. Mario Kart's one of those games. I will say that the Mario franchise in general has stayed pretty consistent throughout. Their systems are simple and accessible. It's another thing, especially for families and non-tech savvy people or kids or whatnot. And the last one is the most important one, and it's a simple fact. Nostalgia is one hell of a drug. I think the other one is that people are ignorant of what's going on. They don't really care about their spending habits. People will put themselves into debt just so they can compete with other people that are just as deep in debt as them, so they can all live in this illusion that they're richer than they actually are, while burning a hole through their pockets and then complaining that they're broke. But none of those excuses are good enough to warrant continuing predatory and greedy practices and behavior. It's like going back to someone who you were dating who's toxic because they have cute little babies or dogs or whatever. Dogs would make more sense, because, okay, to be fair, it's a good enough reason. I mean, they're dogs. I'm kidding. No, wait. Yeah. Whatever. Anyways, but, you're worried about the puppy's safety and the dogs love you. And it doesn't, the point of the matter that I'm trying to make is that the sad part is that the Switch 2 will sell well. No doubt, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that's a good thing. Like, everyone else is like, great, yes, we're going to keep getting more higher prices and barely anything with each iteration of this console. But it means that Nintendo has successfully leveraged its monopoly on childhood memories and the family-friendly branding in order to offload all this lazy old tech at these premium luxury prices. Prices that most of us won't be able to afford pretty soon if they keep going this route. And other members of the industry are going to do this as well. They're going to see Nintendo doing this and be like, wow, Nintendo's got them dumbasses buying this and they're barely doing any work. Why aren't we doing this? And Nintendo's like, yeah, I know, right? Exactly. They're on my freaking gonorrhea-infested jock and they are loving it. And the other dudes are like, bro, I'm clean and you got them. What? What are you doing? What spell have you put over these people? And people will still defend it and say that the hardware is decent. And the cold truth is that the hardware alone doesn't determine the future. Freedom does. And we're losing more of that when it comes to our money and what's available for us to spend it on. And this is why I think that certain other contenders are going to take Nintendo's place, playing the role that Nintendo itself was playing for a very long time before it became high off the smell of its own shit.
Yummy!
Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Yes, the Steam Deck. I know I've mentioned it a million times. Honestly, when it first came out, the first one came out, I wasn't really all about it because, you know, it's first gen. I was like, I don't know. But they've done some tweaks since then, and for my birthday, my husband decided to get me one because I was actually looking into the Rogue Ally. And my sibling told me about it. I mean, it was enough that I was being encouraged to buy it, but I didn't like all the Windows issues they were having, and I wanted the option to emulate without having to go through all the Windows hiccups that they really haven't ironed out yet. It didn't feel good when you're doing it in that mode. And also, yes, you are taking a risk buying a first-gen device. So I took my husband's advice and opted to ask him for the Steam Deck instead, the OLED version, of course, which is the newer one. And so here's the page, and down. As you can see here, the first Steam Deck was LCD because Steam didn't know if it was going to be successful. And that came out in, I believe, 2022. And then the other ones came out in November 2023. That's when Valve introduced the two OLED models, 512 gigabytes and the 1 terabyte, great screen quality, RAM, battery life, all of that stuff, right? I think the performance specs are kind of the same, but it's a bump up. And the next iteration that they gave us was OLED. This is the one that I have because I need the space. And then I think by 2024 you could get refurbished OLED models and saving over $100. So yeah, it feels brand spanking new. The one that I have, I love it. My husband's still doing stuff with it, like setting it up with the ROMs and emulators he's putting on it. And so far I've had no issues playing any of my Steam games on there, including the fast-paced racing games like Need for Speed, Rocket League, all of those. Even the newer games that you think, oh, those gonna have little problems with those, with the graphics. Nope. And I'm aware that, like, it's not using bleeding edge hardware. It's already a generation behind what's inside modern laptops and desktops. I understand that. My rig, way more powerful. You can't really compare PC rigs with handheld games. I don't think it's even fair to put them in the same category because the PC rig's always gonna be more powerful. But the Steam Deck isn't trying to compete with using brute force. Kind of like the position that Nintendo used to be in. But instead, it's gaining popularity because it's flexible, it's catering to ownership, and it offers a wide open ecosystem. And people are saying you can install any game store like Epic, GOG, Battle.net, all of that. You can run Linux or Windows, whatever, emulate basically every console from NES to PS3 and even the Switch, install mods, patches, brand translations, you can tweak all the power usage stuff, the thermal setting. Like, there's so many things that people are saying they can do with this thing. Meanwhile, on the Nintendo Switch or the PlayStation, Xbox, all the other consoles, you know, from back in the day, just still completely closed systems. And look, I get it. You do what the company lets you do. That's it. But the bad news is if you're not innovating that much, you're going to keep falling behind and you're going to get stuck behind eventually until you become obsolete. And that might have worked for a very long time, but judging from the fact that Steam is gaining popularity with this as fast as it is, and people want to feel like consumers again, not slaves to things companies tell them they're supposed to buy even though they don't have to buy it. I'm thinking that people, at least the general crowd, are realizing that they're going to get more bang for their buck by going this route. And Valve is smart because it didn't just release the handheld, but also an open source operating system, SteamOS, that any company can build on. That's why we're also going to see new handhelds, and I'm sure the Rogue Ally and the Legion, all those other things that are popping up everywhere are gonna start getting even more popular. I mean, yeah, they run on Windows right now, but this gives people the option. The SteamOS means we're heading into a future where your game library is portable and your hardware is modular, and Nintendo wants you to start over every generation almost. Steam wants you to bring your library with you for life. Guess which is gonna age better? You don't have to outgrow anything, it grows with you. You know, there are games that I had on old consoles that I didn't get ported over into the new consoles, and I still have those old consoles from when I was a kid, and I'll never give them up. Maybe never say never, but you know what I mean? I don't want to give them up, even though my husband kind of got all of them already, if you know what I mean. But I do like the idea of having that flexibility and not having to buy a freaking new console every single year or two. I'm exaggerating maybe, but you know what I mean. Steam Decks and most PC-based handhelds are designed with future-proofing in mind so they can be upgradable and repairable, and they don't become obsolete overnight. You can buy parts and repair your deck through third parties. The Valve, I believe, supports driver and OS updates long after the release. You're not locked out of new features just because a new model comes out or you lose your shit. Like, I think people are just getting tired of it. One of the things I didn't like, as I said before and I showcased, Nintendo, okay, they shut down the eShops. Your digital library disappears if you don't have those things again. They punish people for trying to preserve or emulate old games. And the emulation thing is so annoying to me because what if you buy an old console? Or let's say your parents bought one for you when you were a kid, and Nintendo might sell those old games, but good luck trying to find one of those consoles. Like, what if they're no longer available? How are you supposed to play the game that you still have that you paid money for if they're not ported over onto the newer systems? Are you supposed to sign up for a freaking subscription and play them online or for a limited time or something? For something you already own, you already paid money for the lifetime access or ownership of this thing. And not everybody wants to go through that mess. You're still preserving the game. It's not like you're trying to come out here and take food out of Nintendo's mouth, which is kind of ironic, given how Nintendo is. At least Valve or Steam doesn't treat you like a freaking criminal. More people, I'm not going to say most, because most people don't even know about this, but there are more people flocking to Steam because they seem to put the gamers first. Feels kind of like, nostalgia, if you really want to say that. Nintendo's out here freaking suing people for hosting charity. I'm so dead. Anyway, this long-ass rant, whatever you call it, coming to a close. I'm not saying that Steam and the other open console ecosystems are the most powerful option right now, at least on paper, but they're definitely the most powerful in potential. Don't sleep on that. They give you freedom, flexibility, and respect, and those are three things that Nintendo has increasingly abandoned in favor of greed and control and selling you Mario again and again for $60+ and upwards of $80, not to mention charging you to walk through the tutorial system for their freaking console that you already paid for. And they have the nerve to say, it's only $10. It's not an exorbitant price. It's an interesting product. The audacity, wow. This is how deep they've got their heel in your neck. And this is where the psychology of business comes in. Just go through these while we end the video. Feels like a lecture. But yeah, like I was saying, this is where the psychology of business comes in. Like companies, especially giants like Nintendo, they're not just watching what you say. Oh, I'm gonna boycott it. No, they're watching what you do. Because consumers can scream boycott all they want. But unless they actually follow through, they will never get that message because they know you'll just scream and cry and you'll buy it anyway. You'll open your mouth so wide and all they'll do is, aw, look at you, baby bird. Take this freaking man meat down your mouth because that's what your open mouth crying means. It means you want to be fed some cream and glaze, right? That is what Nintendo is saying. That's how they treat their customers. Empty threats do not shift corporate behavior. Your actions do. When you say you're going to boycott overpriced games, rehash consoles, anti-consumer practices, but you still line up at midnight to buy them, you're not resisting anything. You're not boycotting anything. You're just validating their behavior. You're feeding the machine that you claim to hate or have a problem with. Nintendo will continue to bleed people dry because you're allowing them to suck out your soul case. And I'll just say this, because people need to hear it. Now, if you generally want to buy Nintendo, you had no problem with Nintendo whatsoever, then by all means do that. I don't have an issue with that. Like, do what you want. You shouldn't have to feel bad about buying it if you really want to buy it. But if you are genuinely having an issue with the company's practices or where the gaming industry is going, and you're one of the loudmouths like me that's coming out here and be like, don't buy it, boycott it, da-da-da-da-da, and you still go out there and buy it, you don't respect your money. You don't respect yourself. If you don't respect your money or yourself, they will not respect your money or you. If you continue to act like you need them, they'll continue treating you like you need them and not the other way around. This is basic consumer psychology. Businesses are like predators. They test boundaries. If you show weakness, they exploit it. The whole machine of marketing and buying and selling, it is a predatory system. It's based on consumer and the people who prey upon you or that need you. Now, you can be the thing that they need. It can be a mutual relationship, but nowadays, that's not the case. And the thing is, Nintendo will continue to bleed people dry because you're allowing them to do so. The only way things change is when people actually close their wallets. That's when companies panic. That's when they start to course correct, like Marvel and Disney and these others are starting to feel it because people were crying and they were getting at the audience and telling the audience how much they suck and gaslighting the audience. And in a way, they still are trying to do that. But now they're starting to feel it because all their fucking movies are flopping. And they're like, okay, now we don't really have... Something's going on. Okay, so I guess all these people bitching and complaining put their money behind that or didn't. You know what? Now we're going to try and see if we can course correct a little bit. And the only things that they seem to be coming out with are things that were already backlogged and they were already scheduled for release anyway. But yeah, the action of people not buying their stuff, not showing up in the movie theaters, that's what got them to start turning on their heels. And it took a while. That's when that happens. So don't just say, oh, Nintendo's greedy. If you really believe that and you're vehement about it, starve the beast. You'll be okay. There are other ways to get your games, and there are other companies out there that could use your support that offer way better entertainment.